Good afternoon, everybody. How you guys doing this Friday, day after Thanksgiving? Hope you had a good one. All right, we got some injury stuff to go through today. We finally took us much longer than usual, but we finally got an injury report out of the Raiders. So we now have an idea of what these two teams are going to have going into this game on Sunday. So we're going to talk about it real quick, but first, just to let you guys know, the Hawks Nest show has been moved to tonight. We weren't going to do it on Thanksgiving. That just didn't really make any sense. I didn't think anybody would show up on Thanksgiving to pregame for the Seahawks. So it's going to be tonight at 5 o'clock on my channel. I know it's a little earlier than we like to do, but it's the only way we could fit it in this week. Next week should go back to the regular time, Tuesdays and Thursdays. But for this week, Friday at 5, my channel. Be there about an hour and a half from now. Hope to see you there. We're going to have fun. We're going to talk about this Raiders game in depth and whatever else happens to be on the mind of the 12s in the room. Okay, so we got an injury report for the Seahawks on screen here, and as you can see, it is about as good of an injury report as you can have this late in the season. And it's not shocking coming off a bye week, but it's nevertheless a welcome sight. Our injury report was pretty clean 2 weeks ago when we played the Bucks, so we would expect it to be clean now. And indeed, you can see that there's one player declared out in this game for the Seahawks, and it's Dee Eskridge. So I don't know if anybody out there really misses Dee Eskridge. I don't know if anybody out there looks at that and goes, "Oh no, what are we going to do now?" But I would assume not very many people. At this point, I think Eskridge is kind of just a throwaway. I don't think he's going to be on this team much longer. I don't think he going forward needs to be any kind of a consideration or a factor. So the reality is injury or no injury, that's probably the case, right? Reports are he has a broken hand, which would mean he would probably go on IR. I expect that in the coming days, him to be put on IR. Maybe he comes back in time for the end of the year, but at that point, are you even going to bother playing him? I think the answer is probably no. I think that he's had his opportunity. I think that the door has closed on him being an impact player in on this team at least, if not in this league. And honestly, I think that conclusion has been drawn before this injury report came out. So nothing of actual value being lost here. Don't expect to see him again this year, to be perfectly honest. At this point, why not just put him on IR? Nobody is doubtful, nobody's questionable. So it's a great injury report going into a kind of must win game. We did have a couple of guys not practice today, DJ Dallas with an illness and Joey Blunt with a personal matter, but no concern of them not playing. They're not even listed. LJ Collier missed some practice time this week. He's honestly another guy who I don't think people would particularly care about if they weren't there, but he was able to practice yesterday and today, so he's good to go. Ryan Neal showed up on the injury report, but he didn't miss any practice. Damian Lewis missed a little bit of practice on Thursday, but was full go on Friday, and he's fine too. So the team is clean right now. The injuries on this team right now are basically Jamal Adams and Rashad Penny, and those are big deals, but we've known about those guys for a long time. So I can, we've all mentally adjusted to that. So this is about as clean as it gets for these Seahawks. Great news. Can't really say the same for the Raiders. Let's hop on over to their injury report on this Friday, and they have issues. Keep in mind, this injury report doesn't say anything about Hunter Renfrow, who's out, he's on IR, and Darren Waller, who is also on IR. So both those guys, they're out, not playing. That's a huge chunk of their offensive explosiveness, right? It was always Devontae, Hunter, Waller, Josh Jacobs that was supposed to carry them to great things. Now they're down two of those guys and possibly a third because a surprising addition to the injury report on Friday, today, was Josh Jacobs. Calf injury, questionable. And this seems significant to me because he was not listed with any kind of an injury to my knowledge on Thursday or Wednesday. And I know Thursday they don't really practice, but he wasn't listed regardless. Now he's listed and being put on the report as questionable. That tells me something may have happened. Something funky might have happened in practice today, for instance. And this is definitely worth monitoring because you take away Josh Jacobs, who is having a really good year for the Raiders, one of the best running backs in the league so far this year. They're down to Devontae Adams and not much else. So that already crippled offense could become even more crippled. And let's not ignore another big one. Colton Miller, left tackle, questionable. I don't have really any indication one way or the other on whether or not he will play, but the fact that he is questionable is very significant. This is their starting left tackle. He was a first round pick back in 2018. He's having a great year. PFF has him graded very well. He's considered to be one of the better left tackles in the league. He's played over 550 snaps this year, so he's a full time player. And if they don't have him, that's another big bite out of an offense that was expected to be something truly special this year. So Colton Miller, monitor him the next couple days. The last two guys listed on the report are Kendall Vickers and Luke Masterson, two depth players on their defense. Kendall Vickers plays, I think, about 20, 25 snaps a game. Not considered a particularly good player either. PFF grade is terrible. And Luke Masterson is a reserve backup special teamer. Doesn't play very much at all. I think he's got less than 100 snaps on the year on defense. So both those guys are questionable. Not completely insignificant, but not particularly significant either. So the Raiders have some real issues with their injuries. And obviously, the Raiders are a team that has generally managed to hang around in pretty much every game they've played this year. But that was partially, or well, we should say actually mostly because their offense was playing so well. Their offense was putting up points. Their offense was keeping them around. It was their defense that was a problem. Well, now you're starting to take away pieces from that offense, and we've already seen it. It's affected them. We saw it against the Saints when they couldn't score a single point the whole game. Even against the Broncos, they really struggled until the last 2 minutes plus overtime of that game. So their offense, which was the only thing making them an interesting team this year, you're down a left tackle potentially, and your running back potentially. You're down your number 2 receiver, your stud tight end. It's piled up. So we'll talk more about this Raiders game tonight and tomorrow morning. But let it be known that there's one team in this game that is severely affected by injuries right now, and there's one team that's not. We got one player out. One player on the injury report period, and it's not a player that I think anybody misses. So great news. Phenomenal news. This team is poised to have a great home stretch. A great December and January pushing to the playoffs. All right, I will see you guys tonight. Again, Hawks Nest stream in about an hour and a half on this channel. Hope to see you there. Peace out and go Hawks.